My oncologist, who I just saved my life, he said, wise men plant trees they know they'll never sit under.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yep.
Our time here is, we don't know when it's going to end. And I think just the impact you can have on your children and your family and the people you serve in your business is so important. And just, it's important for me to leave a legacy that has impact long after I'm gone one day.
All right. Well, hey, Deanne, how are you?
Brian, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good. Welcome to the podcast. Hey, really excited. Never had anybody for the podcast in studio before. We moved locations. Everybody watching, you probably noticed I don't see the couch. I don't see the owls anywhere. What's going on? Well, I thought it would be a little awkward in a small, little cramped podcast studio, sitting on a couch, constantly having to go like this. So we looked around at other podcasts. I was like, this seems kind of cool. So let's do this format. So
this is great.
Hopefully it's not too awkward. We got a lot of camera angles. So Matt, when he's producing and this thing goes live, it's going to be really cool. We're going to switch in all the time. It's going to be like a newscast. Anyway, this isn't about the studio. It's about you. So, so excited that you're here because I've known you for a couple of years. You're a fantastic, amazing photographer. You've done work for our family in the past and our business a couple times now as we've grown. So you've seen some of that. But I thought when Matt and I were talking about who can we bring on site when we start doing this, and you were the first person that came to mind.
Oh, thank you.
You know, I want people locally that you get to work with, within driving distance and things like that, for you to be able to see you that know you and how awesome you're doing. And I wanted other people to be able to see you too. So,
thank you.
Let's just start it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to be doing what you're doing now, and we'll see where the conversation goes from there.
No, first of all, I'm honored that you thought of me and that you asked me to be on this show. It's truly rewarding for me to be here, and I've gotten really to enjoy working with you, both like your family and in business, and just have admired the growth that you've seen in your business end, and then just how well your family is doing. You guys you're special to me. There's certain families that stand out a little more than others. And when I met you guys, I was like, I love this crew. So
that's cool to hear because, we've done for, every other year or so as kiddos are growing, we're, we try to find a photographer. Well, we found you a couple of years back and we haven't switched anybody else, even though you're super busy and sometimes it's hard to get on your calendar. But I will say, like, as a family, we're always nervous going to a new photographer or to get your pictures taken in general. It's, guys, you're like, I don't really want to do this.
I know.
And when you've got 4 kids and you've done it before, they're going to be little heathens running around. And so you'd never know how the photographer is going to take to your family and if they're going to be, because their time is money. And, you don't know, like, you want your kiddos to be perfect. They're not going to be, and you just don't want to be judged for your crazy kids by the photographer who's not happy. But we didn't experience that at all. I remember we went to Terry Andre.
We did.
And so that's for folks not from this area in Wisconsin. It's the state park right on Lake Michigan. So we spent time by the water and in some thick grass. I thought we were going to get ticks and stuff, but we didn't. We were okay. I think we were at a time when they weren't alive. So
He's
that
like, what is she making us do? Walk through the grass.
Yeah, what I'm really getting at is the great experience we had working with you. So it's really cool to hear that you thought we were pretty cool too. But
I truly enjoyed you guys. And I know to answer your question, how did I get to where I am today and all of that? So my aspirations were never to be a professional photographer.
So what did you want to be when you grew up?
I always thought I wanted to do something in the medical field. I've always loved working with people, serving people, helping people, that sort of thing. But I always did have a love for photography. So when I was young, back in the day, when my parents had their film camera, I would put in the old roll of film and I would dress up my younger siblings. They probably cringed every time.
Were you the oldest of the group? Were you the eldest?
Second oldest of 5 kids. Okay. Yes. So
you were the second.
There were plenty of them. And I was like, I have this vision. I'm going to dress you guys up. We're going to go around the yard. And we're gonna do this. So I would do little photo shoots with them.
So had you ever done a photo shoot as a family, so where you knew kind of what you wanted to do, or is this just coming from?
No, this was just the only photo shoot our family ever did was church directory.
Okay, yeah.
And you know how that is. That's just the point and shoot, and we're done. So I had just always loved just creating things and having this vision in my head come to life. So what better way to practice than on my siblings? So I would do that with them. I told them we need to recreate those to this day because
you see those little memes of people doing that, right?
Exactly. I know. So I guess I always maybe had it in me. But I never thought you could actually go ahead and make like a real life career out of photography. So as time went on and I grew through school, the medical field always appealed to me. I just like the sciences and learning about why things work and how everything kind of fits together.
And like blood and guts and stuff didn't bother you at all?
Well, that's a different story.
I was going to say, because that's me. Like, I thought that I wanted to do that stuff too. And then you start seeing those shows and I couldn't. People go, nope, no.
Can't do it.
My wife Jen's like, let's watch. I'm like, no.
I know. No. My husband's a paramedic, firefighter, and he deals with a lot of that. And I'm like, you're cut out for that, not me. So.
Yeah. Because I immediately go to that hurts. It's happening to me.
Yes.
Let's change the channel.
Yeah. So Brian, this is why we do what we do. And
right. Yeah.
But yes, so
did you pursue any of that?
So I did. Yeah. Graduated high school and then went to college for nursing. So that was the goal, was to be a nurse and then advance from there. I always thought I wanted to do like nurse practitioner and that sort of thing. But truly at the core was just helping people and serving people. Mm-hmm. So through college, was enjoying that. And a few years into college, I got diagnosed with bone marrow cancer. And so it completely turned my world upside down. And I had to take off time to go through some pretty grueling treatments. And that kind of set me on the path where I am today.
Wow. How far along in college were you when you...
Yes, so I was about 3 years in.
So you're getting close to wrapping
I was getting close.
You had some plans made.
I did. Yeah, I had some big dreams and kind of had my eye on the end goal. And I've always been very goal driven and just something satisfying about having an end goal in mind and working really hard to achieve that. So yeah, through college, I started to experience some back pain that kind of came on. And I was teaching fitness classes at the time. So
you're a super fit person. So
I just thought, I pulled a muscle.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was 22 years old. Didn't really think anything serious. But when it didn't go away and it actually got worse over the course of several months, I thought I better get it checked out. And sought physical therapists and doctors and just no answers as to what was causing the pain until one morning I woke up and my T11 vertebrae completely collapsed. I was rushed to the emergency room and had to do immediate spinal fusion just to make sure my spinal cord it broke.
From the inside.
Yep. The tumor completely ate away the bone.
So that pain you were experiencing was the tumor doing damage?
Correct.
Slowly. Wow.
Yes. And so it was missed for all those months and just getting worse. So yeah, immediate spinal fusion. The neurosurgeon came in, put 2 8-inch rods, 8 screws in my back. And essentially I learned that I had to relearn how to walk and that I would be facing having to go through transplants and chemo and radiation.
You were 22.
And I was 22. And I just remember thinking like, I can't put my life on hold. I'm in the midst of trying to pursue my nursing degree and get my life started. I don't have time for this.
Yeah. A lot of times we don't have time for life when it's not convenient, right?
Absolutely.
Man, bone marrow. I remember when I was in high school, it was the first time I ever heard about that type of cancer. One of our classes, we were watching a movie, and it kind of has to do with this time of year. It was the Jimmy Valvano story. Mm-hmm. So Jimmy V was the famous coach of, I think, South Carolina back in the 80s. Okay. Won a national championship and stuff. But then he got diagnosed with bone marrow cancer. Mm-hmm. And he died. It was so far along, and it basically broke his bones from the inside. Mm-hmm. It was just like, and when you hear that as a kid, and it's like, wow, I couldn't imagine. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And you can't imagine. I think we hear so many stories about people going through things, and it's like, oh, that's terrible, and I can't imagine that happening to me until it does.
Yeah.
And it hits you differently. I think everyone maybe processes it differently. But for me, as devastating as it was, and I always say we live life forward, but we understand it backwards. In hindsight, it's really set the trajectory for my life today and how I live it and even how I do business. So it's just really, it's given me a whole different outlook on life, and one that I really have become to be very grateful for and appreciative.
So do you think your personality kind of changed a bit after going through that and coming out the other side?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was always...
So I kind of have an idea of your personality now, but I didn't know you before.
Yeah.
What were you like before?
Yeah. No, I always consider myself a pretty grounded individual. Even to this day, like my faith and values are very important to me, and they always have been. Mm-hmm. But when you stare your own mortality in the face, it hits you a little differently, and you start to realize that all of this stuff here doesn't really matter.
Right.
And you start to place more emphasis on time and the people you spend time with and what's in here. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that just became so important. And it made me live the rest of my life with that outlook that one day we're not going to be here.
Someone's going to get all our stuff.
Someone's going to get all our stuff. And I always say, like, even in 100 years, all of us here aren't going to be here, but the stuff is.
Yeah.
And you just can't take it with you. So really the things that you value, it makes you just step back and take a harder look at that.
Yeah,
so
I'm starting to learn too that the things that do stay behind are the impact that you have on other people.
Absolutely.
Because if you have enough of an impact, they don't forget and they remember and they tell stories, and we'll never know because we'll be long gone. But, I think that's the way, the treasures we can build up in this world can last, right?
I agree. It's funny you say that. My oncologist, who I just saved my life, he said, wise men plant trees they know they'll never sit under.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so true.
Yep.
Our time here we don't know when it's going to end. And I think just the impact you can have on your children and your family and the people you serve in your business is so important. And just, it's important for me to leave a legacy that has impact long after I'm gone one day. It totally changed the way I live my entire life. And I'm just grateful for every day. Just grateful to be here talking with you.
I can tell. I don't think I've ever seen you without a smile.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Doesn't mean I think life's easy, right, for anybody, for you, but I think the impact that bringing a smile to where you go has, right?
Yeah.
So you get that diagnosis, you start going through all the treatment.
Yeah.
Life changes upside down. How long did all that last? And coming out you're still with us.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Praise God.
Coming out of the other side of that, you say, like, obviously you're not a nurse now.
Right.
So take us, what happened there?
Good question, Brian. So I was like, okay, we'll just put this on hold. We'll resume nursing once I get through all this, and like life will go on. No big deal. But it didn't quite work that way. So the diagnosis, it was pretty grim. Honestly, it was like, hey, it's so bad. You might have 9 months to live. So we're gonna hit you with a bone marrow transplant, a stem cell transplant, chemo, radiation, and really the whole thing. We did all of that, and it ended up taking, I'd say, the course of probably 2 years. And so at that point, I had spent so much time in the hospital on the bone marrow transplant unit. I did not want to see the inside of a hospital or clinic or any of that again. So I kind of hit this point where I didn't know what to do.
Were you for the most part going through this on your own, or were there folks that kind of rallied around you that you could kind of lean on sometimes? And
oh yeah, I had a great support system. It's huge. I wouldn't have made it through without my support system. I'm blessed to have a wonderful family. I was dating my now husband at the time. He was just a great support for me. Never left my side.
That's how you know the guy's in it for the long term.
Exactly. I'm like, hey, he stuck with me when he could have walked away. That meant a lot. Just like I said, a wonderful family, friends, community. People really stepped up to help. And
so how long ago was this?
So that was in 2012.
2012.
When I was initially diagnosed. Yep.
12 years ago.
Yep. And so, yeah, just realized nursing, even though I loved helping people and still kind of had a passion for it, it just didn't feel right to continue that. And I sort of hit this point in my life where I'm like, what do I want to do? I almost had a hard time finding meaning and purpose. And it was frustrating to me because I had beaten cancer, and yet I still felt so unfulfilled. Like, what do I do with the rest of my life now? I think it's something a lot of people fail to talk about, especially if they go through something at a younger age. And it's like, well, now what?
Well, I think that's a big point. Like, you went through something that a lot of people do, but most of us don't. So we'll never know what that's like. But I think a lot of us, we go through situations where we're striving for something. We're working really hard. We've got this goal out in front of us. We want to be this. We want to do that. We want to have this. We want to experience that. And then we experience that, and it's okay for a moment. And we think on that journey that's what's going to make us happy. And that's what's going to bring us joy, right? And we're going to be fulfilled when we get to this mountaintop. But then you get there and you're like, now what?
Yes. I love that.
So it sounds like with you, all of a sudden, boom, you're faced with your life. And, well, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to fight through it. And you win. And so now what?
Yeah. Now what? Just to kind of go back to what you said, I love the fact that you pointed out so many of us are focused on the end goal that we forget to enjoy the journey.
And it sounds cliche, but it's so true.
We do. Yes, exactly. There was even a Harvard study done that they said people found actually more joy in the journey than the temporary joy that the end goal produced for them. It was so short-lived. And looking back, they're like, wow, I thought that was going to bring me fulfillment, and it never really does. So
yeah, it's like, my wife Jen, we talk about this all the time because we try to lean on each other to get through struggles. And one of the struggles is just the everyday, everything's always seems so messy around the house, and everybody else seems like they have their life put together, in the Facebook photos and stuff. And we look around our house and it looks like a war zone all the time. So she judges herself and she feels judged. I'm like, honey, and I'll say this, and when I'm losing my cool, she'll say it to me. It's like, we're going to be so sad when all this is gone. Because someday, all these kiddos, these heathens, these little monsters are going to be gone, and everything's going to be perfectly clean and tidy and dusted and in its place. And we're going to be lost.
It's so true.
But it's hard when you're in the midst of it.
Exactly.
Enjoy the ride. The ride really sucks right now.
Right. Exactly. Right. And when some people are like, oh, you'll make it through, and it's like, you feel like you're going to pull your hair out some days. And I know how that is, having twins, and sometimes it's just chaos, and you're like, when's this ever going to end? But I love how you said you guys remind each other to just embrace the messiness sometimes, because that's where a lot of the joy is found.
For sure. Okay, so you made it through, but now you're having to retrain how to walk. You're having to kind of get back into shape because those treatments they hurt you along the way, trying to keep you alive.
Correct.
So what was that like when you realized that, okay, I'm getting medicine, and most of the time when we get medicine and treatments, we expect to feel better the next day, right? But all of a sudden you're...
No, great question. You read all of these stories, and I just had to get out of those like Facebook groups that scared me, and just thought, I'm going to put my best foot forward here. Go in with a mindset that, a temporary sacrifice here for a long-term goal and outcome. And that's what I did. The treatments weren't easy. I was in isolation for a long time because I had no immune system.
So they had to just put you in a room and close the door.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like solitary confinement. That sounds terrible.
It was like, so when COVID hit and everyone's like, oh my goodness, I'm like, yeah, I know what this is like. Because it just felt like you just felt very isolated. And I think the biggest struggle was mentally just keeping your mind going in the right direction and not getting down.
Because you're talking to yourself constantly.
Yeah. So
what are you doing when you're alone and you realize I got to stop?
Yeah.
I need something to redirect.
Thankfully, I was able to have just close family members in there.
Like a favorite TV show or favorite book series that you're reading, or what were you doing?
I read a lot of books, a lot of motivational, inspirational things. Okay. Listened to a lot of just inspirational podcasts and things like that. Just good for you sermons. Just good messages.
So who did the best for you that you were listening to, reading? Who would if you were to talk to somebody who needed something that helped you?
Yeah. I loved listening to Joyce Meyer. She is a preacher, and she just has some really great messages. I would listen to her every day, going through treatments. My mom and I would be sitting in the room together, and we just put her on and just kind of set our day in the right tone. And I still listen to her every morning to this day. So yeah, she helped me a lot through.
There you go. Good. We need those. We need those things. We need people that can speak to us and lift us up.
I agree. Right. And I think that's why I'm so passionate too about, I just continue to share my story with others in hopes that I can do the same for them. Because at some point in time, we're all going to face something hard.
Yep, absolutely.
And we need to lean on other people to lift us up. So
for sure. Okay, so you made it out of solitary confinement. They let you out.
Yeah, they let me out.
I don't know why, but they let you out. And I'm not going to be a nurse now.
Yeah.
Like, how did you, like, after that, you're learning to walk again. They mended up your back. It healed up.
Yep. So, time passed, and I ended up getting engaged. My husband proposed to me, and so I said yes. And we were going through our wedding registry, and I remember seeing like a camera, like a nice DSLR, and I'm like, ooh, hey, I've always wanted like a real one. So put it on the registry, and lo and behold, we got it for a wedding gift. And this is how the photography journey started.
So it comes with a little manual, and I remember when my wife got me one 2 years ago, and I was reading the manual. Here's how you do, focus and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Brian, I had no clue how to use it. It sat in the box for probably a good 5 months because I was like, this is overwhelming.
Right?
Yeah. I didn't know where to start. I'm like, I have no idea how to use this.
I got my wife a Cricut for Christmas because she wants to make logo kind of stuff, and because she is creative.
Yeah.
But she's intimidated. She hasn't opened it yet.
Yeah.
She's like, I've got to plug this into a computer, and I've got to do stuff, and
I can relate to that. I know how she feels.
The same thing.
It is.
And guys, when we get toys like that, we're like, it hasn't even been 5 minutes since it was under the tree, and it's already plugged in, and we're like distracted.
That's my husband. He'll tear it open, and he's like figuring it all out. And
I can't understand that. Like, you guys, it's like, why haven't you opened that yet? And created all kinds of stuff. I'm so scared.
Jen, I feel your pain. Yes, I know. Yes. So that's how I felt. I was so overwhelmed, and I'm like, it's still, again, my aspirations were not to start a photography career with it.
Just want to take pictures and maybe hang some stuff around the house. And, I've always enjoyed it. Here we go. Got the real deal.
But it was just like your standard kit lens, like a Rebel T5 or something. And so I guess one day I just got the motivation to, if I can beat cancer, I can figure out how to use this camera. So I did. I just started playing around with it and
got an SD card, plugged it in.
Yep, exactly. Figured it out.
I have to put a card in this thing. Okay.
And it wasn't all seamless. I mean, I just got out there and just started shooting and teaching myself everything I needed to know.
So did somebody find out you had a camera and you could take pictures and hey, can you take pictures of this or that for us? We really need that. How did that come
that's
out?
Kind of how it started. Just people knew I had a camera, and I was so excited. So I'm like, anyone I could photograph was exciting to me.
Yeah.
And if someone was going to just give me a little bit of money for it,
okay,
that just felt even better. So that's how it got started. I'll never forget one of my very first shoots was not family member, a paying client.
Mm-hmm.
I was so nervous, and I just think back to all the mistakes I probably made on that very first shoot. But yeah, looking back in hindsight, had I never taken that first step, I would never have taken a second step and a third.
And that first one, what I've learned too, when I started doing new things, is they usually don't know that you're messing up.
Correct.
You're like, I totally botched this.
Yeah. Yeah. They were like, you did great. We loved you.
These
and
pictures are great.
Yeah.
Like, they're terrible.
And they've hired me since. So I guess I must have done something right. But yeah, I think it taught me the importance of just like taking that first step, not being afraid to fail, and failing forward, learning from your mistakes and doing better next time.
Yeah. So did it just kind of start to snowball from there? They maybe referred someone to you, or did you say like, well, I can make money at doing this. Okay, I need business cards. I need this. I need to go to.
Yeah, no, it didn't exactly start.
And were you working then too?
I was not working.
Okay.
So
this was still pretty fresh.
This was still pretty fresh. I was like, that it was at the point where I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. And then when I started to dabble into photography and people started talking and, hey, can you do pictures for so-and-so and for my daughter and all this stuff, I just started getting busier accidentally and kind of started getting so busy that people were like, why don't you just do this full time?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I guess so. Guess I need to get some business cards. I need to get a website, like all the things to make myself legit.
Right.
And so again, just kind of took the first step. Didn't really know what I was doing. Made my own website, wrote something up, and there I was. I didn't have really a method to the madness looking back now, but we all have to start somewhere.
That's true. I talked to a lot of people and I felt like this for a while is I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I'm not ready. I need to know more.
Yes.
I need to have some sort of credential. I need to have some sort of training.
Yes.
I need to have, something, or I'm not going to be able to do this, or that people are going to think that I can't or something. But it's really not how it goes.
No. And I'm glad you said that too, because I think a lot of people feel that. They delay starting something because they don't feel ready. And I think that's one of the worst mistakes you can make. I think you just have to do it afraid and do it even though you don't feel quite ready.
Right. Yeah. I don't know a whole lot of technical things about photography. I do know it's both a skill and an art, like most things are. There's a science to it, light and depth and content of the photo. And
see,
I used to draw and paint and stuff like that. So it's similar, right? This is going to end up on a canvas of some sort. What's going on? But obviously you didn't go to school to become a photographer.
Right.
I think a lot of people, they want to do something like that. And then they're like, I need to go to school and take classes and pay a ton of money. I'm not saying don't do those things, because I think there's advantages for those kind of things. Yeah. And maybe it can help put the right things forward if you want to go into a certain type of photography because you have the credentials, you've got this. But it's not necessarily, you don't have to necessarily do that. Right?
No, that's right. Exactly. And I've talked with a lot of people who've gone to school specifically for photo, video, and I'm always curious, did it help you? Was it worth it? Did you learn a lot? And the answer is always kind of like,
There's probably like 2 or 3 classes in 4 years that are really applicable to what the skill set you need to do it. And then a lot of times in college, I'm not trying to dog any colleges or universities because I went to one and I wouldn't have my wife and a lot of things if it wasn't for that. But there's a lot of fluff in there that's revenue generation for a college or university that is under the guise of helping you become a more well-rounded, educated person.
I agree.
But I don't know that that's always.
I agree.
Yeah, the case. So.
I don't think you need a college degree to pursue a business of your dreams if you really have the passion and the drive for it. So, but also college does have its place. And I think you're right. It just really depends kind of what you're going for and the end goal. So,
yeah, obviously a lot of people say this. There's certain things you better get to college for because there's structure built to make sure that you have the ability to do what you do.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're going to affect the well-being of people's lives and things like that. But, and I definitely don't want to downplay anybody's ever gone to school to become a photographer and become a great photographer.
I agree too. Not. And some of the greatest photographers have gone to really wonderful colleges and schools. And I learned from them today. So I just think we all have skills we can bring to the table and, just to be open-minded and continually learning always.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's not, let's get back to hearing about how your skill improved. So you did that first one. And you're probably still thinking, I'm not very good at this, but hey, I made a little bit of money on the side and people are telling me I should do it. So I'm going to start. When did you start to feel really like you're getting good at this and it's starting to feel natural? Because I could talk about that when it comes to business and sales and playing guitar and all those kind of things. There's just this time period where you have to work so hard and it feels like you're not getting better and frustrated and this isn't working. And then all of a sudden you're like, this isn't as hard as it used to be. Like, how long did it take you to get to that point?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brian. And it's one that I've kind of thought of before, because someone said to me, like, at what point do you call yourself a professional photographer? And it just got me thinking. It kind of hit me and I'm like, yeah, that's a great question. I think when I had the ability to teach other people the skills that I learned, that's when I felt like, okay, I'm actually doing this. I was able to help other people improve their skills in their businesses. And
so you've taught folks.
I've taught folks. Yeah, I've done a couple.
That's awesome. All right. I knew we'd learn something that I didn't know. Yeah.
So I've just, like I said, I've always enjoyed helping people and serving people. So when I can take my skills and apply it to someone else and help them hone in on their skills and improve, that feels really gratifying to me.
So do you teach on more of a one-on-one basis, or you do kind of offer maybe classes and to kind of intro people to it, or how do you approach teaching? Yeah,
so I've actually done it both ways. I've done a couple like individual sessions, but I've also done some larger group classes, about 30 people or so in a classroom, and couple hours, and we've just gone through kind of the basics of learning camera and all of those sort of things that apply to photography, and it's just been really wonderful and rewarding for all of us. So we've really enjoyed that.
So what do you think about, what have you learned that you think is specific to what you bring to photography?
I guess like in the direction of like how I run a shoot, or...
I think that's could be a big part of it, because one of the, as someone who's had photos taken with family and friends, and it's like you go to school, you have to take pictures at school. It's always awkward.
Yeah.
So you either cut up and be a clown, or you sit there, and a big part of it is the personality and the ability for the photographer to be a human and make you feel like you belong there.
I think that what you said is kind of important. Not making the people in front of your camera feel awkward and uncomfortable, because once they do, it's just, you aren't going to get genuine expression and emotion.
Smile, and the Chandler Bing smile. Yeah.
Right. And I am all about photography. For me is telling a story, whether it's business branding or whether it's capturing families together. So even just thinking back to your family session, I loved it to let your kids play and interact with one another, and just really bring out their unique personalities. I think that's a whole nother skill when it comes to photography, is trying to really use the skills that maybe you can bring to the table to get other people's personalities to really draw out and to show that through in photographs.
Yeah, I can see that. And I now that you're talking to me about it, I'm thinking, yeah, that's how it was. And because you didn't like sit us down and interview us like we're doing here to find out our story, and then because that would be weird. But if like, I'm real big on making sure that when you get to know people, you're genuinely interested in them, like not just surface level kind of stuff. And like, if you can quickly realize a dynamic and you learn a little thing that's going to come through in the picture, because you're going to allow them. And so when I look at our pictures that you've done of our family, it's like, that's us.
Oh,
it doesn't feel like they, the old like 70s and 80s where they kind of do the headshot of the three, and then you got dad's head floating in the background, and because that's just kind of a style of family photo. Like, and I think a lot of, and everybody kind of has different techniques and different technology they use and angles and stuff. But yeah, I think that would be I don't know how you market that, but
that's rewarding. Yeah. That's rewarding to hear, though. Thank you for that feedback. Just to know that when you look at the photographs and you're like, yep, that's us. That's them. That's their little face.
That's my
exactly. Like, and their little faces, and I can still see it. And it's like, that's the goal. That's the goal. Is just to make everybody feel comfortable and capture their authentic selves. Every family's special and unique, and the way they interact is so different. I don't think every session should be this strategic game plan. I think it should just unfold naturally. And that's how I like to kind of approach photography when I do families and sessions like that. Branding sessions are a little bit different. Those are a little bit more detail oriented, but I enjoy those equally as much.
So when you're doing branding sessions, that's typically working with professionals, businesses,
Correct.
or those type of folks. Okay. Without incriminating the innocent or yourself, tell me about the craziest shoot that you've ever had that you've experienced that you were like, you were not ready for that.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, it doesn't have to be like crazy, like something like it just threw you off and it's memorable. And like when you sit down and you're talking to your circle of friends and stuff. I remember that time. And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm a wedding photographer as well.
Okay.
So I've seen a lot of.
So is that a class of photographers? Like they're wedding photographers.
It kind of is its own unique specialty.
Okay.
A wedding photographer. I just feel like you have to
like a wedding singer. There's singers.
Yeah.
There's church singers.
Right.
There's pop singers, and then there's wedding singers.
I think with wedding photographer, you have to be up for dealing with a lot of unpredictability, crazy bridal couples, and the groomsmen who just get out of hand. So I've seen a lot of that stuff happen, and just trying to organize that all can be
So have you had to like put your foot down? I remember our wedding photographer, she was like a dictator. She was like, no, you're all going there now. I don't want anything out of you. Get over here. And then when, she's fine. She was, but she was like, this has to happen now. Go get it. Do it now.
Yeah. No, you know what? I hear a lot of stories like that, and it's just not my approach because I never feel like it actually works well. I usually like to have fun with them, but take the leadership role. Like, hey, let's have fun, but like, let's get the job done. Okay.
Yeah, yep.
So, for me, that's just worked the best. But yeah, I mean, I've seen groomsmen crack their head open and we got blood and we're dealing with all of that sort of thing.
Did you capture that on film?
I'm like, I should have grabbed some pictures of that.
This is going to be a memorable moment because he might not have a memory after this.
Yeah. So, all the emergency room stuff and ambulances, all of those things. So I guess those have been kind of memorable. But I think looking back, other memorable things have been where I've failed to set boundaries in the beginning, where I was really taken advantage of because I wanted the job. And looking back, I'm like, wow, that was really stupid. I should have established better boundaries with the client than letting them kind of walk all over me.
So if it doesn't, I don't want you to get in trouble with, but take me through it. You don't have to, their specific name, but take us through that because after I hear that, I want to kind of relate to it because it happens in other business too.
Yes.
And I think it's a valuable thing for folks in our audience to hear, whether they're business folks or not, or maybe they've been the clients and they don't realize that this is going on. So take me through that.
Yeah, I love that. I bring this up because like you mentioned, I think it happens to a lot of us. But I think setting boundaries in your business is important because there are going to be people who aren't going to respect you or your time. And that's so valuable. And I have learned this along the way. So I'm grateful for these experiences and that I've looked back. But yes, it was a shoot that I had set up. It was really supposed to be just an hour's worth of my time. I drove probably a good hour to get there, really went out of my way, and was just trying to go above and beyond for the client because I believe that's what we have to do is go above and beyond and serve them well. But it crossed the line when it was like, can you do this and that and more? And we ended up traveling to all these different places, and the time, instead of being an hour, ended up being like 3 to 4 hours, and things just got really dragged out. And the concern for my time, and there was just a lot of things.
Is it like bordering disrespect?
Yeah.
Like, I'm paying you to be here. Just do what I said, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Really?
It was like, you're doing this because you said you were going to be here, and just those sort of things. And the whole situation, I handled it fine. We came to
in the moment, you just go with it.
You go with it. But in hindsight and looking back now, and that was in the earlier years of my business. So this was years ago. Yeah. How I would have handled things differently today, knowing what I know now and have learned along the way. Mm-hmm. I would have handled it differently.
So were they a referral? Did they kind of see your website? Or a friend of a friend?
I don't know how they actually found me. It was no one that I knew through anybody. So there was just I don't know how they found me.
Phone rang kind of, or email came.
But it was one of those things, like initially when I got the contact and we kind of went over the plan, there was something in my gut that said, this doesn't really feel right, but I took the job anyhow because I was in the beginning and I thought,
trying to move the flywheel, right? I want some more.
Exactly.
I need this.
Sometimes we become a little desperate for the job. Like we're willing to go the extra mile even when it doesn't feel right.
Yep.
So that was a teaching lesson for me. Just sometimes listen to your intuition. If something feels a little off, it might be a hunch that you need to back down.
Yeah, that happens, and it rears its head up in different kind of forms. Sometimes you catch it like in the middle of it, like, what am I doing?
Exactly.
I don't need this business this bad.
Exactly.
So yeah, it happens a lot where, especially in the beginning of trying to get a business going, you might not have a lot of revenue coming in.
Exactly.
You might not have a lot of clients, and you get a lead in, you call them back and they sound really nice. Hey, Brian, yeah, let's meet, bud. And I got this, and you find, you're like, okay, yeah, we can do this. Yeah, I'll just give you the whole shebang and at a third of what it should cost.
Exactly.
Because if I don't, then I don't know how much money we're going to be pulling in this month. And then you do it, and you establish this relationship, and you've established a baseline. And in the business that I'm in, it's long-term kind of revenue. And you wake up a couple of years down the line, and you're like, this business deal has been a win for them and a lose for me for 2 years.
You said it perfectly. Yeah. Sometimes it really does feel that way. It feels like a win for them and a major lose for you. Because I always say a yes is a no to something else. So,
yeah, you're right. It absolutely is. And you better be ready for it.
You better be ready for it. So yeah, sometimes the opportunity might look great at the time, but you have to remember the no that's going along with that too.
Yeah. So you said yes to come on the podcast. I'm really happy about that. I'm just going to get that in there right
I'm
now.
so happy to be here. I've been enjoying our conversation.
Because you had to say no to something in order to be here.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's true. You're always giving up something. I think you have to make the yes worth it.
Yeah.
So this has definitely been a good yes.
Cool. All right. So yeah, but just getting back to that topic, I think it's important. It's something that I've never really got to hit on with any of the podcasts, talking to so many people that have businesses, is kind of going down that road a little bit of some buyer's remorse on clientele. And it's not like I don't consider them bad people or anything like that, because they're, most of the time, the people that you're working with, they really just want something that works really well for them.
Absolutely.
And for the most part, they want to make sure it works good for you too.
Yes.
But that's not always their mindset. So I always, from now, we always talk about with the team and everything that it's got to be a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there needs to be a level of mutual respect. And that goes a long way when we can, I think, educate our clients properly too on kind of our process and where we stand. Having good communication with them is key, and at the end of the day, it really comes together. So,
and what I found is that it eases I don't really call it anxiety. It eases my stress a little bit about the situation. Like if I'm talking to a professional and they're like, okay, we're going to meet at this time. You don't have to bring anything, or if you want to do, we're going to do one change. We're going to do this. We're going to do about 15 minutes of this. And when you get there, they're happy and ready to go and upbeat, because I'm chasing kids as they're coming out of the car, or employees, because they really don't want to get their photo taken either. They're really nervous about it. It's just a second family. You know, it's like, no, you're getting your photo taken. No, I don't want to. But
the whole crew here was wonderful for your brand new phone. So.
They are pretty cool.
They are great. I have to say, you have a really great team here. I have enjoyed working with every single one of you. So
that's good to hear. And I would love to be able to say I'm really good at hiring good people.
Yeah.
But I've just got a couple people around me that are really good at finding good people. So
and that's so important, who you surround yourself with, and the community, and how you build each other up, and just the team you create. Like, that's huge. So
how about you? Is this always going to be a one-person show, or do you want to do something bigger someday?
Yeah, I mean, I always think.
I mean, you already are. You're teaching, so you're building a legacy that way.
Oh, thank you. No, I always have dreams and goals and ambitions. I think once we stop ever striving for something beyond what we currently have, like, there just doesn't feel to be, I don't know, much drive or purpose. And I've always been a very goal-driven person. So yeah, I would love to expand this kind currently working on right now a branding and marketing course, like a digital course that I'm able to sell online.
Okay.
Partnering with another videographer. So right now we're offering like a 5-day free boot camp, just kind of like getting people's feet wet, showing them what we could teach them about branding and marketing their businesses. And then ultimately would like to create like a mastermind course dedicated just to helping businesses learn how to brand properly and to market properly. That's something I've really grown to love, is working with businesses, because I see the direct effect that proper branding and marketing has on helping propel a business forward and grow. So truly love that. And the goal would be to kind of pivot more that way and just expand the teaching. And
that's really cool. And bringing technology into it so you can multiply yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of a limit of 15, 20, 30 people in a room, you could be teaching thousands at a time.
That's the goal.
That's really cool.
So I'm setting the bar high, dreaming big, and taking action and just seeing where it goes.
So where do people find information about your courses that you're doing? Is there stuff already out there now that people can find and kind of get signed up for your free course? Or
Yep. So we basically just launched it last week, and it can be found on our Facebook pages. So Elite Photography by Deanne, and then Miller Highlights. She is the videographer who's running the marketing end, and she also has posted information as well. But I'm sharing it on my Instagram and Facebook, and we'll continue sharing some links there too. So
very cool.
Can maybe link that in the show.
So we'll pull up in production. We'll pull up some images of your stuff so people can see it, and maybe we can post some stuff down in the YouTube information section for people to link to. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we're very excited. Like I said, it's just rewarding working with businesses. I've just grown to love the business end of things.
Yeah. So getting back to your story, so you've been doing photography now since 12, 13 years now or so? Is that what it's been?
About that.
All right. So now you're a seasoned vet.
I know. I'm
nothing else to learn. You've got it. So let's talk tech a little bit, because I like techie kind of things, and some of our audience does. What's kind of the cool photography gear that someone needs? You don't need everything to get started. It's not necessarily, but what have you acquired since you started? You started with your initial DSLR camera with a lens, and then like with me, when I started playing guitar for church, I have a problem. Very quickly, it's a meme for guitar players. Like, you can't help but keep buying more guitars and different colors and different styles. And and my Jen's like, do you really need it? They have different sounds. Right. And the people at church are like, why are you bringing 3 guitars for the service? I'm like, because the songs are different and they sound different. So
I love it. So you can relate to this.
Yeah. So tell me about that.
It's like a bad obsession. You always want. I mean, I think it's just been interesting to see the world of photography evolve. So you start out with like the kit DSLR kit lens, but there are, as I got to learn, different lenses for different purposes that produce a whole different type of image. Like you with the guitar, one sounds a little different or whatnot. So the same thing with cameras and lenses.
So you have any of those ones that are like really big that you see like wildlife photographers? It's almost like they need a...
Yeah, I know those big.
Yeah.
I do have a pretty big one.
Is that just because they need to see into outer space, basically? Or
it's just, with things like wildlife photographers use those a lot because
they don't want to get hurt by photographing a bear, so they got to be 2 miles away.
So I do have a big one like that, which cool. I use for things like weddings if I can't be close during the ceremony to capture those shots.
You feel like you're right there.
Right. So again, each lens does have its purpose, and there's a method to the madness. So I have, some of those really nice telephoto zoom lenses, but then some of those really nice wide angle lenses as well, just to capture more of the scene. And so I've had so much fun playing around with them, and I've seen the photography world shift from DSLRs to now all to mirrorless cameras as well.
Okay.
So that piqued my interest, and I was like,
mirrorless camera?
So it's like instantaneous. It doesn't have the sensor where it takes the image it processes it and like reflects it on a mirror. This has no mirror. It's just instantaneous. So I thought, okay, I mean, these are pretty recent, within the past, I'd say 2 years or so, maybe not even. So I got one, dabbled into it, and just fell in love with it.
Is it a different technique in using it? Is the result drastically different, or what's the purpose of?
It's very fast. It's fast. It makes life easier. And there's even a lot of AI built into it, honestly.
So corrective kind of stuff that it does, or?
It has like eye tracking. So I think for weddings, this works very well. You have a bride coming down the aisle. And for me, the ability to just like track her eye and not miss that moment because it's one or done. You either get it or it's blurry. That's been really, really nice to have. Now, not to say you can just pick it up and not know what you're doing. You still have to understand how to use the camera, rules of composition, all of that. But I feel like it has its place in making life easier.
Have you ever dabbled in like cameras with film outside of when you were younger and you started your professional career with your family using the film? And have you done that? Like, have you ever gone and like try to develop film in a red room or anything like that? Or
I wish I could say I had. That's always been something that's really been intriguing to me.
Yeah.
I haven't really taken the time to do it. But one day
is it still kind of a thing? Is there a niche for it?
There is. There's
it's obviously got a different cost and time.
It's like a whole nother genre. I feel like if you offer film, that's like what you do. But that's a whole nother beast to tackle. And I'm just not sure I want to head that direction.
Well, yeah. And it almost seems like now the only reason to would just to be if it's like fly fishing versus, fishing with a rod and reel or something, like you're doing it because you want the experience of doing something that has some odd technique. And maybe it feels like you're more involved in the construction of
I agree.
the end results. I have no idea. I'm just talking, rambling a little bit, but
no, I agree with you. And some people they love it, and that it's kind of like what fills their cup. And by all means, I think like you have to do that if that's really what you feel pulled towards. But I've been enjoying the involvement of kind of the photography, playing with different lenses, seeing what I can produce. Just by applying a different lens and understanding composition. So
I mean, I used to draw a lot. I thought I was going to be an artist and an art teacher, kind of like you thought you were going to be a nurse. I was always intrigued by digital art. Whether using software, using a stylus on a screen, and kind of doing things that way. And I've tried it a number of times, and I don't even when they try to artificially make a sound of a pencil on paper or maybe a haptic feedback, I never felt the transfer of what I was doing. And like, because when you draw, it's I don't know how to explain it. And when you're shading things in and making things look like they have multiple dimensions on a piece of paper, I never got the same feeling from digital. I think there's some amazing artists that do digital that might not do, whatever I guess you would call analog on a piece of paper.
That's amazing to me. Artists and artistry and being able to draw and have the ability to create depth with pressure of a pencil and shading fascinates me. I have no artistic drawing ability. So
that's kind of me in like photo ability because, and it's funny because tell me if this has ever happened to you. It kind of happens to me because I have an IT company and everybody thinks I can fix their computer.
Yeah.
But like my in-laws and stuff, they found out that I could draw and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, okay, I remember the first time my wife's mom brought me in. We were in their house. We were still dating at the time. And she's like, Brian, I'm thinking of getting some new furniture, and here's some swaths of the different types of upholstery that we're going to get the couch. Which one should I choose? And I'm like, I tried to but I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
That's awesome.
Like in a physical space, 3-dimensionally, I can create, but like I can't picture where to place things and people to make, and then have it come out to be something that looks great.
Yeah.
So you got to have a mind for that, and maybe that's something that develops as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Sometimes people assume like, oh, you do photography or you draw, you're artistic, you're artsy.
Can you draw me this?
Right. And it's like, no, nope. But I think also like with photography, like it's a learned skill too along the way. Because even just looking back at composition and some of the beginning photos, how I would have done things differently, using light, how I would have used light differently, just having an understanding about how light plays such an important role in affecting the photograph, and just rule of thirds and all of that.
What's the rule of thirds?
So
you gotta drop that kind of stuff without telling me what it is.
So instead of placing your subject directly in the center of a photo, it's actually more eye appealing to
if they're off-centered.
Put them off-center.
Yeah, that's the same way in art.
Exactly.
Same way in art when you're drawing and it's still life or something like that. You don't necessarily, logic tells you put it in the middle. Right. That's where it goes.
Yeah.
I remember Miss Nardine teach me about that. My art teacher. She was actually kind of like my second mom in high school. But
the stuff you remember.
Or use of space, right? I remember her telling me that because she would teach high school, but she'd also teach like second, third, fourth, fifth grade too. And she'd say, I do these psychological tests on artists too. She'd take it to the little kids and give them a whole piece of paper and say, draw whatever. And they would draw it and take the smallest little piece, but the whole paper is now used up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you use the space that you have creatively?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the fun of it. And I'm sure I can imagine with drawing too, it's like the ability to create something and make it what you kind of envision. I love that. It just drives me.
Yeah. For me, it was, I'm the type of person, I don't call myself an artist because I haven't kept up with my skills long enough like artists they're good. Like, but with me is like, I'm really good at drawing what I see. Not what I think I see. Some people can draw what they think they see in their imagination and make the coolest things I've ever seen. And those are the kind of artists that I envy. Yeah. But then there's artists that can literally, you put something in front of them and they will meticulously obsess over drawing that. And it has to be proportional and perfect and right. And they have to figure out a technique to make the shine come through. And where do when you see a shine, it's not actually, you can't make the shine happen. It's really white space. You know what I mean? Those kind of things. And so,
what do you like to draw most, Brian?
When I haven't spent time drawing in a long time. I always use this excuse. I ran out of inspiration. Like I wanted to see, like, oh, that would be, when I was young, it's like, that'd be awesome to draw. That'd be awesome to draw. That'd be awesome to draw. I think a big part of it now too, is it takes, when I draw and do things, if I had my art teacher, Miss Nardine here, she'd say the same. I would take my time. It would take me all semester to get a piece done. But I think it turned out pretty good. Yeah. But I really liked, like animals was cool and I liked things that seemed odd and out of place. I like to pick the things that were most difficult. Like I remember we were learning how to do a stipple, which is using a very fine marker and just using dots to make a drawing or a composition. And I picked, of all things, a rhinoceros. And like, if you've ever seen the skin of a rhinoceros, it's a little overly detailed. Yeah. And I couldn't just draw and like fill in. It was like I needed every crease, every wrinkle, every crack in the whole, so it took forever. She didn't think it was going to get done. I remember this. It was funny, but yeah, it was that. I liked things that would push my skill level. Yeah. Even to the point where I'd get done, I'd be like, this is junk. So how about you? What are your favorite type of photos to take?
Yeah. So I like working with families and just, I think each family has such a unique connection, and businesses. Those are probably my two favorite things to photograph. I know it seems drastically different, and they kind of are. But yeah, I think just capturing family memories and families together is just, that really kind of fills my cup. But then also working with businesses, I've just grown to love that so much too. So I kind of like to dabble into both of those. Cool.
How do you know when you get into a space or when you're taking someone to a space to do a shoot? I'll give you an example. When we went to Terry Andre and you took us to that grass field, I looked at it, I'm like, oh great, we're working this deep grass. It's gonna be itchy. Kids are gonna be complaining. I'm like, this is ugly. The space is ugly. But then we do the shoot and I see the result. I'm like, what? This is not where we were.
That's what I love.
Everything's beautiful and windswept, and our smiles are right where they're supposed to be. And it did not we had fun. We had fun for sure. Like, it wasn't weird, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, she knows what we're doing here.
What is she thinking? But hey, on your token, you guys are a photogenic family. Like, all of you, your children, Jen, all of you, like, you guys look great. Like, it's hard to screw
nice
up.
of you to say that.
Your family is very, very cute. So,
but no, I'm very serious. Like, it ended up being the perfect spot for the day and what we were wearing and the way we were acting. Is like, so how do you see that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I love it when people say that. That makes me the happiest when they're like, I didn't really think this was gonna look like this, and then I saw the pictures and it like blew me away. And I love that so much.
I mean, do you kind of mentally kind of produce the image or in your head, like, this is going to be great, this is why I know, so I'm taking a chance here, but we're going to do it?
I kind of have a method to madness. I always say, like, my rules are, and this is how I process it: light, location, and layout. So first of all, I'm always looking for the good light, because I don't care where you are. If the lighting's bad, the picture's going to be kind of crappy.
What's good light?
So we always look for nice, soft light, not that really harsh light that's going to cast these harsh shadows, and kind of create wonky shadows on faces and all that.
So an overcast day is fine.
Overcast day is great.
Yeah.
Yes. But you still have to, again, be mindful of the light. Some people are like, oh, it's overcast, like, we can position you anywhere. But it's kind of crazy. You still do get a cast of light. It's just like a really great diffuser. So cloud coverage is a wonderful natural diffuser, and I love it. And when you're working in sunlight, direct sunlight is always the hardest. So you have to be really strategic there. Yeah. But that golden hour is kind of like every photographer's dream, the 2 hours before sunset.
Okay.
Or the kind of 2 hours after the sun rises. So
did you learn that through experience, or like you read some books and like, watch out, this is the hours you want?
Both.
Both? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I did a lot. I feel like I just dove hard into...
Like, you messed it all up, and then you read the books and you're like, oh, this would have been nice a couple years ago.
Sense. Yeah. But yeah, I took a really great course, just really taught kind of the skills of how to produce a good photograph. But yes, light, and then location and layout. So really, you should be able to take any location, even if it's like in the middle of a busy city and you're looking around like, this looks like trash, and being able to produce a really beautiful image. That's like, I love that. I love the challenge of that. And I think that's what drives me to continue doing photography.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's kind of how I approach every session, is with those 3 key things in mind, and then just kind of let my imagination go from there.
Yeah. Well, let's move into some fun stuff then. Even though I know you have fun doing photography, so you're lucky that way. When you're not working, what are you doing? I mean, what hobbies do you have? I mean, a lot of people, their hobby is photos, but you got to have something outside of...
Yeah, the work-life balance.
There's no such thing.
My husband has to tell me sometimes to stop working, because I love it. Like, I just enjoy doing it.
Yep.
And so I think he's kind of like pushed me to find hobbies. But first of all, just spending time with my family, 2 wonderful twins, and just, they always keep me going.
What's the coolest thing for you and your family to do? What do you like doing together the most? Cooking brownies, running around,
being home outside.
Yeah.
We have a little hobby farm. We have some chickens, goats, sheep, and we just like to be home and together. So yeah,
it's nice to have a place like that, right?
Yes,
where home is a destination you want to be.
Exactly. We love home. It's just, we love being together. I love cooking and baking, mostly baking.
Baking, yeah.
So that's a hobby of mine. It's just, I just love to.
What's your go-to dish to bake? Or pastry to bake?
Yeah, I'm like the desserts queen. Anything sweet. So cookies, torts. I'll dabble into pies.
Like
anything, snack mixes. Like
my mother-in-law makes a chocolate eclair cake.
Oh yeah,
and it's this big round, looks like a giant donut, but it's a big eclair she makes. And like anytime grandma wants to make something, what should she make? Chocolate eclair cake.
Yeah. I know, everyone's like, who's bringing the dessert? And it's me. But I love it. And last night I had my kids in the kitchen. We made macadamia nut cookies, and Yeah, I just love to do stuff like that with them.
But then when she makes the baklava, I have nothing to do with that. I don't know if anybody know, what baklava
Oh, yeah,
is.
yeah. I've never made it before.
Yeah. It looks awesome, but it's just, I don't dig the flavor.
Yeah.
I know everybody loves it besides me.
My husband's family has that. His
I think it's
grandma,
a German thing, right? Is it Polish?
Yeah. They do like a couple things too, and like they love it. But I feel like some of the things is an acquired, like you have to grow up with it to really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of those too growing up, and my husband's like, I can't understand.
So Easter's coming up. Are you guys going to have a big feast, family over? Are you guys going places?
Yeah, we're going to just stay local here, go by my grandparents, celebrate together, enjoy good food.
You know what you're making?
So probably, I'm making my cornbread.
Okay, I do cornbread.
I do have a killer
That's
cornbread
rare for
recipe.
Up north here. Like I don't hear a lot of people talk about their cornbread.
No. And I introduced it to everybody, found this really great cornbread recipe, brought it to an Easter get-together, and it has stuck ever since.
Now it's a request.
So have to pass it along
So
to you.
what's special about the cornbread? A lot of people will put things in it.
Yeah. I don't do corn in it.
Okay.
But I juice it up.
Okay.
It's like we add the extra butter, the honey.
Honey, that's the key.
Sour cream to keep it moist, and some eggs and milk. And
all right, I'm salivating. I don't do a whole lot of bread and stuff anymore, but I will break my truce.
I will bring you some next time.
For cornbread, yes. I'll have some more. I grew up in Texas, so cornbread
Oh, you grew up in Texas.
Something like cornbread and iced tea. And
I know, that's people here are normally not like big on cornbread. I love it. And so I was like, we're bringing it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Cornbread. So this has been great. We're just past an hour, and I want to use your time wisely. And I could probably keep going for another hour or two.
Yeah, but, this hour has flown by.
This has been fantastic. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you for having me. I feel like we just got started. I can't believe it's been an hour.
Absolutely. We'll definitely find a reason to do this again. Maybe someday I'll take one of your courses to learn, because I have an old Nikon DSLR that is like probably 15 years old that I haven't used in a long time. Maybe I'll learn how to use it.
That would be fantastic. I'd love to have you.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Brian.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.